Guys, it's like, let's just do it. Welcome today. We were actually here doing our first show here with Martin Collin. My name is Marketing with Dom, and we're here to talk about actually just like marketing and hard money and the actual real estate business, about a lot of things that we've learned during this process. Welcome to our first show. I know that over time we'll have more guests and people coming in. But we just wanted to, we create a lot of content as we're starting to learn and build businesses with some major funds and real estate, gurus in the industry. And as we start to learn more about that, looking at the difference between the people who are actually doing it and the people you see on social media, we wanted to come bring a fresh perspective, because I do marketing and he actually does the sales and the mortgages and the notes to other people and investors through them. So we're going to give it for a double perspective. And right now we're actually just talking about social media, right? Because that comes into my perspective, is he's going to be teaching me more about hard money loans, lending, and stuff like that from those buyers. I will be sitting here getting the chance to talk to him about marketing. So he was talking about how social media may not be for him in the moment, as he's trying to figure out, it's not for him. He understands he needs to do it. He understands that it's going to be a
Just like
great
everybody
part
out
of
there.
what we get to build in the
Yeah.
future. But trying to figure out how he can put himself out there in a simplistic way of like how that actually can impact his business, right? The biggest investment you can ever make in yourself, I think, especially in this day and age, is being able to cultivate attention in your space, like what we're doing right now. So,
Yeah. And
so
I
this will be
think,
one of the videos we get to put out and talk about it.
yeah,
I'm
I
listening.
just think, just like myself and what you were just saying is, a lot of times like we overthink it, right? Like we're thinking like, oh, like, do I have the
Yeah.
content to put out? Do I have substance to what I'm saying? Whatever the case may be, right?
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of us like,
Exactly.
social media is the one place that's free advertising, right? And at the end of the day, you have to put content out or you have something to say. It's just how can you reach the people that need to hear it, and at the end of the
Yeah.
day, for
Facts.
myself, I've been an entrepreneur for I haven't had a job since I was 19, 20 years old. And I've always found ways to get out there and be my own person as opposed to working for somebody else and doing not living a life that I love. Just to be honest, and
Yeah.
I come from a lending background. I grew up in construction. My dad was a GC for 50 years, and I was a grunt. I was in the backyard every weekend just digging holes and doing nonsense. But, just getting into the finance world to try to bring the financial knowledge to him, kind of taught me working smarter than harder. And then on top of that, just,
Exactly.
when you search for mentorship, you know, the knowledge that I've been able to gain over time is light years ahead of where I would have been, and we all have to
Correct. Yeah.
search it out and be a sponge, so the one thing I always try to talk about, like, and just the velocity of money, marketing comes directly correlated to that. So if you don't know how to go ahead
Correct.
and
Very
move
true.
money, and the one thing
Yeah.
I've noticed is the majority of people you talk to, they don't know what the velocity of money is. They went through
True.
high school, went to college, and they were never even taught what credit is. So how do you use credit to
Facts.
your benefit if you don't know what it is, right? Because
Facts on that.
from what I hear from a lot of people is like, oh, get debt free. But when you listen to the Robert Kiyosaki's or Tony Robbins
Yeah.
or all these
Good debt
guys,
versus bad debt,
yeah, like,
right? It's kind of
what was it,
crazy.
Rich Dad Poor Dad, right? Like all these
Hmm.
guys, like, they don't give a shit about debt. Debt's the only thing that's not taxed. The only thing. And it's like the Burr method. Whether you're a wholesaler or a flipper or a real estate guy or just an employee, right? A lot of people, they're employees and they might be a very high paid employee, but you're still trading time for money. And how do you get out of the rat race? You know, for
That's right.
me, one thing that hit
Right.
me hard was my mom worked for Kaiser for almost 20 years. 9 months
Yeah.
before she received her pension, they just, she had some workers' comp issues and they kind of flipped to the bird and just said, we're going to hire somebody younger and cheaper. And she put 19 years and 3 months in, and she was 56, had to figure it out. Just like we're all trying to
That.
figure it out. but I'd rather figure it out now.
Exactly. Still trying to figure it out.
Right? Like
Exactly.
I'd rather figure it out now
What is that,
than
100 million?
wait till I'm 60 to try to figure it out. Right? But we all have our journey.
That is
You
true.
know.
That is true. That's true. Those are the positions that it seems like, that as we learn in this money business, that the factor of education about money is it's not everywhere, and the traditional information that everybody is giving you only teaches you how to do so much as survive, but never really teaches you how to thrive and how the money system works. So, it's crazy that we're learning more about this mortgage industry from some person who's already in the industry, been in the real estate industry for a while, and being able to work underneath them and sell a program with them, and being part of Invest Brilliantly, of the education part, but being able to work with somebody who's just so far in the industry. Some of the people who've worked with you in the industry is so far in the industry as well. Learning an old business to do it a new way. Because that's what we're kind of looking at it right now, is like, how can we see
Yeah.
what this old business is, not lose the traditional, the style, the actual workmanship to it, but at the same time bring a whole new spin to it, and teach other people about this financial difference, and why we're trying to corner the market now. Looking at that, we're starting it in December, and we're looking at 2024 being amazing, and literally producing an extreme amount of content to teach other people how to be more financially literate. And being entrepreneurs, we get to gauge the risk constantly up and down of having good times and having amazing times, so that we know that these amazing times exist.
Yeah.
It's kind of like our drug to this excitement of trying to go get it, because we know there's another life out there as long as you extend a little bit further than you're extending before. So, when we come into 2024, the one thing that I want to ask you is that what moment made you decide to go all in the mortgage note industry, that to create our the financial future that we're expecting to do? What made notes special for you when you got into this industry?
So, that's a great question. And I remember, we work with, Patrick Franz and Desi Arnaz, and I remember you introduced me to Patrick probably 6 years ago. And,
Yeah.
I was in the structured settlement industry working with payment flows, right? And
Mm-hmm.
just time value of money, right? And, at that time, I had a big deal that I closed, and at the time it was the biggest deal I've ever closed. And it froze my account for 3 weeks.
What
And,
was that?
and
How big was that deal? How big was that deal?
it was over six figures,
Ooh.
I don't want to talk about numbers, but it was
Yeah,
life
yeah,
changing.
big.
It,
They're
it,
like,
it was
they're like,
it
how are
was
you
like
getting drug money? Like, what
no,
kind of money you
and
getting
I
in your
swear
account?
my
Dropping like
bank
this.
probably thought that, right? Because at the time,
Like, what
I
is
was
going
an
on?
entrepreneur in sales, working my ass off, going nonstop, and I had $700 in my account when, you know, it broke, right? And they froze my account for 3 fucking weeks.
That is that is insane. That is
And,
insane.
and at the time, right, like I met Patrick shortly after, and I was just like, man, like if I want $1,000 of cash flow, like I'd have to invest $100,000, and it just didn't click for me at that time, right? I was so young,
Makes sense,
and
yeah.
as time went on, I started to realize, and I was like, man, I live in San Diego, so you know that six figures doesn't last that long, right? Like life's expensive, but it
Life
was
is
just like,
expensive.
okay, like I'm trading all this time, and big deals, they come and go. There's the chase of losing a deal, whatever the case may be, right? But I was like,
Mm-hmm.
what if every single time and I was actually originating notes and selling them off to investors, like institutional
Yeah.
investors. And I was just like, man,
Yep.
like like, I wish I had the money to buy these notes because passive cash flow, right? And I was in
Yeah.
network marketing as a young kid. Charlie Samonte, you remember him? The first thing
Yep.
he taught
Sure
me,
do.
he was my very first mentor at 18 years old, and I'm thankful that I searched out mentorship. But he told me something very
Facts.
simple that really like resonated with me. He said, most people want to be financially free, right? And we have the saying in sales, it's KISS. Keep it simple, stupid.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Like,
Keep it
but
simple,
in the
stupid.
simplest form, to become financially free, you need your passive income, the money you don't actively have to go and work for, to surpass your monthly expenses. And most people
Exactly.
just don't have any passive income, right? And when it comes to real estate,
Zero.
people think that like being a landlord or buying a rental property is passive income. But I
Yeah,
mean,
they do.
I talk to landlords all day, and not one of them is passive.
Facts. We talk to thousands of
not,
landlords in
not,
this
not
industry.
one of them is passive, right? And
We
they
talk to
fucking hate
so
that.
many landlords. You
Yeah.
know, people always ask me too. Sometimes they're like, why don't you haven't even done this?" I was like, "Well, I've spoken to hundreds of real estate people, right? If you're going to be smart enough to listen to people and like take their perspective and to learn before you take that jump, then that's what we're going to be smart enough to do." So as you started to get through that process and learn more about notes, and you said, you were saying that you were looking at getting paid for a lot longer, than just, those initial big payments, right? You said it finally started to get to a point where you're starting to get it to click. You're making some big payments. Now you're in sales. Now you're meeting Patrick and Desi, who are part of our mentors in this journey overall. And when we finally started working with him as well, because we wanted to be part of something that we thought would be the best in the world, rather than just being a piece of the nation. I think that their club and what we're going to be able to bring to it in this new striking, distance, that we're going to be the best, no mortgage investment group in the world, honestly. And us being able to be part of that. What made you finally, because you are part of a bunch of it, right? You said you've always been in the industry, but what made you get that little part where you're like, well, this is what I'm selling, and I'm not getting the piece of this real estate that I want, that I'm not getting the piece of the real estate that I want, which is the
Well,
paper, right?
yeah. Well, I'll tell you this, right? Like people flip houses. Banks don't flip
Yeah.
houses. They flip paper,
Banks don't
right?
flip houses.
And
Facts.
the one thing I started noticing was, I've always known that notes were great, right? And I
Mm-hmm.
had a couple of note deals where I was able to save somebody from being foreclosed on, and I sold
Yeah.
that note to an investor where they got a
Yeah.
phenomenal secured return where they were getting monthly cash flow, right?
Yeah.
And I talked to people and they're like, "Yeah, I can invest in the S&P 500." You can, 1,000%. It's tied to the market, and you don't get cash flow. So
Yeah.
it's like at the same time, you know, there's a million different ways to invest, and I
True.
diversify myself. I'm not saying notes is the
Mm-hmm.
only thing. I like notes because it's secured by real estate and it pays out
Correct.
a monthly cash flow, right?
Yeah.
I also believe in IUL policies. Like, I was just talking to
Mm-hmm.
somebody about that, and if I pay $3,000 a month into an IUL policy, by the time I'm 65, I'll have $300,000 a year being paid out to me tax free, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, okay, but $3,000 a month, like that's a big bill, right? But me, I think
Yeah.
outside the
Facts.
box. I'm like, what if I can utilize notes and buy notes? Because with that $3,000 a month, I can have access to pull capital
Ooh.
out, and it's the velocity of money.
Facts.
I can pull capital out, invest into a note, and that 3,000
Mm-hmm.
pays it myself. And I have access to capital whenever any opportunity comes up, whenever anything comes up.
Yeah.
And I can even probably write it off for myself. Right? Like I'm not a tax
Yeah.
professional. So don't listen to it.
We're not
Like,
financial tax professionals. Please make sure you go to your tax professionals to
but I
get
want to learn
factual
how to
information.
make my money work for myself, because I don't want to have to go out there and work 40, 50, 60 hours a week to go make one
Yeah.
big check a year, right?
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, when you really break it down, and a lot of things that we teach is using OPM, other people's money.
Yeah.
And when I talk to people within the industry, to answer your question, long tangent, but to answer your question, a lot of people, they have no idea what notes are. Even lenders, real estate investors,
Yeah, they
all
don't.
that. And I went to a networking event where I wore this cash flow hat, and they were like, "Well, cash flow, like," and nobody knows what notes are. It blows my mind, because these
True.
lenders sell notes, right? Like that's what they do for a living. They sell notes.
Yeah.
And real estate investors, even if they're a landlord, they're holding a note and hoping to get the cash flow. A
True.
note just cuts out being the liability of having the bill
The
that comes
actual
with
real
it.
estate.
Like the bill
Yeah,
that comes with it.
with the upkeep. The upkeep.
Yeah, the upkeep, because
Yeah, it would
you
be
still
the upkeep bill.
because you
Yeah.
still have like the cash flow that comes with it. You still have
Yeah.
the collateral of the real estate, but you
hmm
don't own the real estate. Just like we just went through a big
You actually do technically own the real estate.
No, you have
Technically.
you
You
have
have
a
leverage
say.
on the real estate.
You have a
You have a
say.
lien on the. I guess technically you have a
Exactly.
lien on the real estate would be okay. So you'd be
Exactly.
leaned on the real estate as collateral.
So
So you won't own the property, but you have the first lien on the property as the asset, which gives you way less liability and upkeep.
Exactly. Let me say this, right? We just went through a global pandemic, COVID.
Yeah.
Right.
True.
During COVID, what do they say? Hey guys, you need tenants. You guys don't have to pay. I know for myself I did because I didn't want my landlord to be bitching at me and trying to push me out. But you don't have to pay. The landlord, the homeowner, still had to pay.
Facts.
Regardless of if the tenant didn't have to pay. And so when a global pandemic happens and all of a sudden you're a landlord and they're like, you know what? All you tenants in the world, don't worry, you don't have to pay. But why didn't they do that same thing for the landlords? Right? Like they just got stuck, right?
Kept pulling. True.
But it's like when times like that happens, when you're operating as a bank, Wells Fargo, Bank of America, any of these Rocket Mortgage, like none of them care, right? Pay me, pay me. That's all they care about. And the landlord, they got put into a tough position because anybody that buys a rental property is doing it for cash flow. But at the end of the day, there's a million different ways to be able to leverage money.
I don't know if it's you, but it looks like that your thing went on the mute. I see your headphone is beeping. It said, "Heads up, Colin's recording will continue in a new track. Starting a new track due to changing of devices."
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear you now. Yeah, I think.
Yeah, I had a phone call come in. I got clients calling me. But
Colin, you're like, yeah, we're trying to get to this mud.
But at the end of the day, like this is our first call right here, and we just figured like, hey, like we're talking about things that are necessary, finances and marketing, right? And there's a lot of different ways that you can implement that into anything. And I mean, you don't have to listen to me or Dom or anybody, right? True. But let's start a conversation. Right. Let's have a conversation about it, and let's think outside the box, because I know I don't want to be 60 years old still trading my time for money and trying to get
Facts. It. That's hard to even say around older people because sometimes they get upset.
No, they
and like when you're doing great, they understand when you're doing bad. They're kind of like, oh, but it's like you're showing us that at the end of the day, you didn't have the safety net that you preached me to have. And at the end of the day, you're out here winging it like me.
Yeah, and the funny thing is like I come from a big family.
Life can flip a dime on you.
Yeah, I come from a big family, just as I'm sure you do as well, right? Like, every time, and especially like we're having this conversation on December 28th, right? Christmas was a couple
let's date it, guys. December 28th, 2023. Remember where we started. Please.
Yeah, Christmas was a couple days ago, and Thanksgiving was a couple days ago.
Yes.
And I know I'm not alone.
And I wasn't able to buy as many presents as I wanted, and I remember that. Just remember that as you listen to our first podcast.
And it's funny because like you go into the holidays and your family is always asking like, well, what are you doing these days, right? What are you up to these days? And the funny thing is like, excuse my language, but motherfucker, the same thing I was on Thanksgiving 7 weeks ago when I talked to you, right? But it's always like a status thing, just like social media is, and that's why we like we started this. And Dom, you said this to me a couple years ago, was like social media is the current resume. It's your virtual resume, right? And that made a lot of sense. And I'm just an introvert person naturally. I have to push myself. And honestly, the reason why we got on this call was because Tom was like, "No, we're just doing it, bro. Like, let's go,
Fuck
just
it.
talk." Yeah.
And at this point, we always talk anyway every day. And I was just like, we're always talking about money. We're always talking about moving forward. We want to, be able to put out content and what we're doing, what we're actually doing. And instead of just, face content, it's what we're doing is talking about what we're already doing and creating content and what our already processes. Like we're already on the call, 2-3 hours a day sometimes, talking about different things. So why not in those factors put a topic together that we have to talk about anyway, adjust those situations, talk about it, even the things that we're dealing with in the moment, deals we have in the moment, talking about people being able to invest with us and, things that we have with other investors if you're looking to get in projects and what are those things we look like in mortgage notes and stuff like that. Being able to just chat about that, and have that conversation out and about. And that's where we're at today. And I'm excited because the next one that we'll have on here, we'll be able to have your brother on here to be able to produce this channel as well, which is on the back end because he's also getting into the space as a videographer and working in the space with notes and real estate people. And the site, even the content, the strategy that we're using right now is what I'll be teaching on, which is this is Riverside, in which we're doing the videos on, making it very easy for me and him to do it from a different place. Like, shouts out to Riverside if you ever want to endorse our podcast. Shouts out if you're ever looking for one. But Riverside is a good way that you can actually just create your content. The reason why I'm giving them a shout out is because it's making this process between me and Colin quite easy to create this content, get it out to you guys.
I'm in San Diego. Are you in Texas right now, or where are you
Arizona?
at? Arizona. So like we're in different places, and the one thing I want to share to anybody, just like Dom pushed me, he was like, no, let's fucking do it now, right? Because we all do a lot of different things. We all stay busy, and at the end of the day, cut out all the extra noise, all the opinions that you might have, and I think something that stopped me for a long time on doing one of these is just overthinking things, right? Like just thinking like, oh, like I'm gonna be judged, this and that. I was like, you're gonna be judged regardless. Like my family still judges me, no matter what. No matter what, they're gonna judge you. Yeah,
I can't figure it
out. But have fun in life, like I like principles of giving to others, having genuine character, and helping the next person get to the next stage. And there's a lot of different ways. We talked about a lot about notes on this call, but whether it's real estate investing, whether it's stock market investing, whether it's marketing, right? Whatever the case may be. And I love that these different avenues have even provided my brother a way to get out of his job that he hated, and now he loves what he does. Right? So share those opportunities, and just keep thriving.
True, man. Yeah, so everybody who's out there, I want you guys to thanks for listening to our first podcast as we got in today. I know my man has a call pulling up right now in about 9 minutes, so I want him to be prepared for one of his investment calls that he has, and we want to just be able to pop on here and give you guys a quick shots to it. You know what I mean? It's your boy Marketing with Dom. Thank you for popping in. And Colin, tell them where they can find you on social media.
I barely have social media, to be honest, but I have an Instagram.
What are you going to call it?
I might need your help to go ahead and help me put that thing in place.
Hey, that's what we're here to do. They're going to be watching this podcast. They're going to see our brand start to become they're going to see the videos of us talking about it, seeing the new brand adjust. They're going to see everything happening all at once because we're going to talk about it and deliver it all at the same time. We're talking about social media, and as we're getting ready to talk about notes and investment and stuff like that. So that's going to be an amazing part. They're going to get to see you literally start from this first podcast, literally not having a brand,
see the growth, baby.
And then just see this next year compound of the videos that we're shooting, compounding the podcast coming out, us having real intros, outros, all those things that start to develop as we start to deliver this podcast to you guys, talking about money and, getting to the money for all you young men out there who are hustling to the dollar, shots out to us. Hopefully we'll be able to bring you two different perspectives, from life, and from where we're at, and then give you guys a little bit of understanding of just what you learn from school to what you got to learn yourself, and how we both make money in the industries, how I make money in software and AI, and how he makes money in hard money lending, and how those two combined have brought us here for your podcast. every single week. You know,
I don't do
you
just hard money lending. I do residential and commercial lending. So come check me out. But you know,
so
it's
basically,
Instagram.
call my guy Colin if you need money.
Hey, I operate as a bank, not as
Facts.
a employee, right? Not as a
You don't want that
landlord,
bank.
whatever the case may be. Instagram is
Usually
Bowtie
my
Bandit
camera's getting dark out here.
619. Goodwood
Need a light?
Customs. You know, go ahead and check us out. We do nonprofit philanthropy, philanthropic efforts. You
Yeah, no,
know, we like to
definitely
give
you're gonna have
back.
to
You
shoot
know,
one at a podcast.
yeah,
If you
we
guys
we
don't know
do a
what
lot.
cornhole is,
We do a
the
lot.
internet. If you don't know what cornhole is and you've never played that amazing backyard game, please go into Google, type in cornhole, watch a video. It's a lot of fun. If you're not an athlete at all, you still may have fun. But if you're just absolutely trash, it may not be the sport you want. You know? If you can't play pickleball either, figure your life out.
Not everybody can figure it out. You know what I mean? But thank you
That's
thank
true.
you for your
That's
time.
true.
You know, like I appreciate it. I know I'm about to jump on another call right here, but
All right.
you know,
Everybody tune in,
the
make sure
first
you
of
like
many.
and subscribe to the podcast.
Go ahead and do it. You know, just like I had to do today
Like
with Dom. You know, just don't hesitate. Just shoot,
Don't
shoot or
hesitate to
shoot.
like and subscribe.
Yes, sir.
Let's go. Till next time.
Later.